Hi, this is Stephen from Own and Disown. We've got an exceptional guest on today. It's Mr. Fox. Please be sure to check out his channel, Mr. Fox Rocks 2. And Mr. Fox is probably the best laptop modder I've seen on the internet. So how do you do?
Hey, thank you, Stephen. Glad to be here.
So looking at your fantastic channel there, Mr. Fox, you've done a lot of work with Clevo laptops, eh? And particularly like the Sager model I have, and you've done fantastic work on keeping these high-powered laptops cool. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've done that?
Yeah, I've been a laptop nut for a long time. Started out with my own Alienware systems and then moved on to Clevo, and that's where my interests are now, is with Clevo. They got some amazing laptops. But like every brand, they have things that are wrong with them. You know, nothing's perfect, and so with the Clevos, you have to focus a lot on the cooling. They have good basic cooling systems, great laptops, but out of the box, you're going to have to do some tweaking and some mods. And so I've done a variety of things. You know, I've used some copper shims in between the CPU and the heatsink. I've actually done several where I've actually soldered the copper shim onto the heatsink to make it permanent.
Yes, I've seen that, yes.
Also, I've got a Eurocom Tornado F5, which is also known as the HID Evolution Evox 16 LG1080, which is a white book MSI. Has a 7700K CPU and a GTX 1080 and a 15-inch package.
Yeah, and
it's
a full wattage GTX 1080. Yeah, is it like a 200 watts?
Well, it's 150 watt GTX 1080, but I'm running a Prima Mod BIOS on it, which you can talk a little bit about here in a minute. And that GPU actually will pull about 215 watts in that little 15-inch notebook.
That's incredible, isn't it? So no Max-Q development for you then?
No Max-Q for me, thank you. But yeah, whenever you start doing that kind of thing, you really have to focus on cooling. And in my YouTube channel, I've got a playlist there called Overclock University that people can check out, and it'll lay the groundwork from them. Doesn't get into all the mechanics of overclocking as much as what you need to do to prepare for it so you don't ruin your stuff. That's the main focus, but it does touch some on the overclocking as well, how to do it. So.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Yeah, so I mean, I looked at some of your work where you've even drilled holes to allow better airflow into the bottom panels of your laptops. That's very adventurous.
Yeah, as long as you come up with a grill that looks halfway decent, so it doesn't look like a backyard job. It's very, very effective. Works really well.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking of doing that. Well, not necessarily that, but I know certainly on mine, I've got those flaps covering the air vents. You know, I saw you put those in the trash can, and I think I'm going to do the same thing.
Yeah, you definitely need to do that. I don't know why they did that, and you know, it's basically like what MSI did with that 16L13, and they also have a production unit with their own branding on it that's a BGA model that's identical in all other respects. That the bottom cover's made the same way, and the thing just chokes. You know, there's no way it can breathe made that way. So
yeah.
Any laptop, you know, that's getting it off the table or off the desk, and giving it room to breathe and making sure it's got ventilation that's the first step, really.
Yeah, I know you. Are you a proponent of undervolting, or do you rather try and cool it by proper means rather than is that a bit cheating?
Some of the people that know me well on the forum know I like to say, doing more with less sucks. I want to do more with more.
Yeah.
So because there's so much voltage, that means that I can just overclock that much higher without changing the voltage. So at the 7700K, in both of my little MSI and my Clevo, I can run it. I can boot it at 5 gigahertz without changing the voltage at all. That's how far.
Wow.
That's how I guess I'm kind of stammering here. That's how much excess voltage Intel spec allows. Is that, you know, it's 4.2. 4.5 gigahertz, but I can run it at 5 without increasing voltage. That's pretty sad. So for anyone watching that wants to get the best temperatures, if you're not overclocking, then definitely undervolt. You can run like the 7700K, for example. If I run it at all 4 cores at 45, I can drop my voltage down, set override or static voltage in the BIOS, and run it at like 1.07, 1.06 volts versus the 1.25, which is standard.
Right. And did you prefer doing everything in the BIOS rather than doing the using the utilities that say Sage or whatever include?
Yes, that's a preferred way. You get a lot more control if you have an unlocked BIOS. If you don't, then you do the best you can and you use throttle stop and XTU and the Clevo utility or whatever you may have.
Yes.
Do the best you can. So.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about this Prima mod BIOS? What advantages does that bring?
Yeah, that's awesome. Prima, that's his nickname, has started the company. I think it was in 2011. I'd have to check, but he's been around for a long time firmware modder. He's very talented, and he does primarily Clevo.
Yes.
And what he does, there's quite a few people out there that can unlock a BIOS and expose the hidden menus. And some of those menus are hidden for good reason. You can brick your laptop if you set the wrong thing. So the OEMs have kind of gone overboard with locking you out of everything. Some of them you can't even choose whether to run CSM or legacy BIOS or, whatever flavor they're offering. We hope you like it, kind of thing. But
yeah, I think it's Apple's fault for doing what.
Yeah. So at the most basic level, Prima is unlocking hidden menus. He doesn't unlock the stuff that's unsafe. He only unlocks what's useful. But he goes beyond that. He dives into the code in the BIOS. But he's an expert hex editor, and anything that doesn't support what we want to do with the laptop, so to speak, he'll actually go into the code and modify the code. He's enabled some amazing features that if you just enable the menus, they don't work. So there's a lot of talent behind that that's not clearly understood by the community.
And I noticed on your channel you've done some guides on that too, showing them page by page, and that was very informative. So I'll put a link of that in the description, for you. And
Prima does also a video BIOS.
Okay.
We have some challenges now with Pascal because NVIDIA started using what they call Falcon security. That basically requires that the BIOS be signed by NVIDIA, or else you can't flash the firmware. But there is a way, and we can talk about a little bit if you'd like about the programming, where you can manually flash the modded firmware.
Yeah, no, I'd love to hear that.
Tim and I are actively working on together to try to get the GTX 1080 notebook firmware to where it solves all of the room temperature throttling and things like that are going on.
Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, I sure can. Matter of fact, I'll find a video here in just a minute that we can screen share.
Yeah, okay.
But, basically, you're buying a programmer, and there's several of them available. You can find them on Amazon or get them on eBay. I have a TL866A. It's a programmer that it allows you to program ROM chips. Whether it's a video BIOS or a system BIOS on a motherboard. You can either take the socket off, or if the board will allow you to, you can use an alligator clip and do an inline flash. Some systems allow it, some don't. But you can, if there is any signature protection on the firmware, then you can circumvent that by manually programming it. I like to call it the sledgehammer method.
Practice on somebody else's computer first, I suppose.
We practice on mine. So, yeah, I would say in the last 3 months, my P870 DM3 has been taken apart probably 150 times.
Amazing.
For video BIOS flashing, because I have to take the big vapor chamber off. With the SLI model, they got that huge vapor chamber cooler, which is awesome. But got to take that off and put the alligator clip on and flash it, and then put it back on and see if it'll boot without a black screen or beeping or whatever, and then take it apart and flash it again or program it again. So could you flash any GTX 1080 then with that, or like on an Alienware or what, MSI? I believe so. The important thing for anyone to remember that's going to try this endeavor, obviously besides protecting your system from ESD or electrostatic discharge, which can fry things, you'll want to make sure that you pull a clean copy of the firmware off the video card or off the motherboard, whatever you're programming, so that if things don't go as planned, you can use that programmer to put back
Yeah.
the firmware and not have a a doorstop when you're done. So with the programmer, it's really relatively safe, because as long as you don't short something while you're working on it, if the firmware you put on there doesn't work, hey, no problem, put the old firmware back. So.
And the benefits of this, does it allow better like voltage control on the GPU? Is that
yeah,
everything?
It controls the goal that Prima is working on now, that he and I are testing together, is to eliminate the thermal throttling. As I'm sure you've seen, that all Pascal, even the desktop GPUs, at normal room temperature, they don't hold boost clocks. They start falling, and by the time you reach 65 or 70, they're almost down to where boost isn't even working anymore. And so that's in the firmware. I call it the cancerware. So we're working on fixing that so that it should hold boost clocks until it reaches a dangerous temperature and then throttle. So we're working on fixing that, allowing some voltage control.
Wow.
So that you can overclock higher if you'd like to, that type of thing. So that's become more complex, because changes you make can in fact potentially affect other features that people want, like G-Sync. You don't want to make the GPU overclockable and then find out, well, now my G-Sync is broken. That's not good. So
now is this something like HID Evolution and Gentech PC and all the guys? Do they offer this type of service, or do you think they ever will?
Well, there are Prima Mod partner shops. HID Evolution is one. Mythologic is one. LPC Digital.
Okay.
Recently joined as a Prima Mod partner. Eurocom in Canada has been a Prima Mod partner for a long time. And they also recently added Exotic PC.
Okay.
We've got quite a few. There's one in Portugal called Clevo Center, and there's Avel, I believe is the name, in Poland, Brazil. And then there's I think it's D3 Dream Machines. It's in Poland. It's a Prima Mod shop.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah, okay.
And those vendors offer the Prima BIOS and vBIOS at no extra charge generally to their customers. It's completely safe, so there's really no reason to charge extra for it. And they have an agreement with Prima where he develops for them only. So Prima used to release a lot of stuff publicly. That's recently had to stop because of plagiarism or piracy, or however you want to call it. He doesn't own the firmware, but obviously the intelligence behind the mods, people are stealing and trying to sell it as their own and that kind of thing. So he's dealing strictly with the Prima Mod partner shops now for his own benefit. So.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, this is all controlled then. Yeah, and I see you've done other work. I thought it was very good, actually, by the way, because the CMOS battery. I remember taking my Alienware apart, whatever, to gain access to all that crap. And you managed to do a good mod there. I thought, hooking it up to the right side of the motherboard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beyond me that a manufacturer would release any notebook with this CMOS battery hard to get to. That just
yeah, it's daft, isn't it?
If for no other reason that they wear out and need to be replaced sometimes. I mean, who wants to tear it apart to do that?
Yeah. It's daft. I fully agree with you. Yeah. So that was a great mod. So everybody check that one out. And another one you did was replacing the LCD panel. I've been asked that quite a few times. In fact, my sister-in-law's LCD is smashed, and I said, "Well, you can replace it." And everybody's scared to, of course. But is it something that's easy to do?
Well, of course, it can vary by laptop how the LCD panel is made. There are some that. Some of your really nice machines that look beautiful, like the Dell XPS systems, for example, they're glued together. So if you're going to replace the LCD on that, you're not going to take it apart. The older Alienware, like the M18X, had a gorgeous edge-to-edge glass, Gorilla Glass display with the LCD behind that, and that's all glued together. So,
you're not gonna do that,
but on the laptops that have a removable bezel, the newer Alienwares and most of the Clevos and everything else have a removable bezel. What you don't know without a manual to read is how far you're going to have to go with the MSI or the Tornado F5 Evoc 16G 1080. I was able to replace the LCD panel with nothing but a Phillips screwdriver, and I didn't have to take anything apart except for unsnap the bezel.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
you went around the edge of the bezel. It's clipped together and had some double-sided sticky tape to help hold it. Took that off. It had 2 screws at the bottom, and the top of the panel fit in a notch, and I just unplugged the EDP cable, plugged it in, and put the 2 screws back in and stuck the bezel on. It was very simple, like as I showed in the video.
Yeah, and that's how it should be, shouldn't it? Really, I always dreamed to have.
Make it that way.
Yeah, I always dreamed to have laptops like desktops, you know, at some point where you can just swap and replace parts as you see fit. Do you think we'll ever reach those days?
I don't know. It seems like they're going the other direction, where they make everything full on non-replaceable.
To try and get you to buy another laptop.
I've always said BGA means better get another.
That's what it does stand for. All right, so have you got anything there you can share on a screen with some of your work as examples?
Yeah, anyone that wants to check out, I've got tons of Imager albums. Some of it's boring, but if you browse through there...
Okay, I've got it.
My Imager URL is Mr. Fox. It's all run together, mrfox.imager.com/album. You'll find a lot of the mods that I have on YouTube also have photos that coincide with them here. So if you don't find a link in my videos, you can look here.
Okay.
There's a lot of things in here, like the old, we were speaking earlier about my dual 330 watt AC adapter mod for the M18XR1. You'll find photos and schematics in here. Let me grab that real quick. There's also a YouTube video that doesn't show any details. Here's the album right here. So, and that went through several iterations. I started out with a little black box, and went to a larger aluminum box. But there's also a schematic if anyone wants to build their own. There's a schematic in here. I kind of walked through the steps of how I put it together. I started out with an old CPU heatsink on top to cool the bridge rectifier, and there's a good picture of it.
Oh yeah, okay.
So that was kind of cool, but I decided it would be neater to go with a big, larger aluminum box and use the entire box as a heatsink. And that's what it ended up looking like there. The first one was hardwired, and I ended up buying some sockets so I could just plug in the AC adapters, like a Clevo dual adapter. So I plugged 2 in on one end and had a hardwire going out on the other. So there's a video there for that. I can share that video here.
That's great. You'll need to make one. I know that Eurocom have got that 780 watt one. Perhaps you can make your own.
Yeah, I could. It's almost there already. So here in my YouTube channel, you can find where I actually demonstrate that. Part of the video is geared towards showing Dell or Alienware leadership why they needed to have a dual AC adapter set up like Clevo did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they never went through that. But here I use Alienware M18XR2 as well as Alienware 18 with the dual AC adapter mod showing that it was pulling more than, even without a big overclock.
Wow.
It was pulling more than a single 330 watt AC adapter is capable of providing.
Yeah.
So if you check out my YouTube channel, you mentioned the URL a few moments ago. If you click on the link where it says videos, you'll find a long list of the videos, but most of it's organized by subject and playlists. So there's the Overclock University playlist that shows on the main channel. That'll take you into a lot of the videos that dive into the overclocking. I've added to this playlist the BIOS walkthrough videos for the Primo mod. I believe I've got one for the MSI as well, but they're both Aptio BIOS. So anything that you find that works on the Clevo will work on the MSI equally well, subject to the limitations of the CPU that you have installed, of course.
Yes.
So a lot of information there. I cover some of the mods as well. I show I bench my laptops on a 10,000 BTU portable air conditioning unit. You set them right on top and let that freezing cold air blow into them. So if anybody wonders how I'm benching a Clevo at 5.2 gigahertz with the GPU at 2.1 megahertz on core and 11,200 megahertz on the the memory. That's how you keep
You put it on an air conditioner. I've often thought about doing that.
Yeah, that started years ago. You know, I've been overclocker for a long time, and my mentor, a guy goes by the forum handle of John K. Triple S. People that are on notebook review forums will recognize him, or Tech Inferno they'll recognize him. And he was my mentor. He got me started in it. He's big time. He uses liquid nitrogen and different things, but he's also used like dry ice and stuff on laptops. So.
Is he really?
Yeah. So he's the one that introduced me to the cooling and with the air conditioner. I used to travel extensively for work. I was about 70% travel, and that went on for about 10 years, I guess, 12 years.
Wow.
So I was taking my big SLI Alienware notebooks with me on the road, gallivanting all across the United States, and whenever I'd get off work, I'd want to bench these things and overclock. So you'd find me with an ironing board lowered down to the level of the air conditioning unit under the window, with the back half of the laptop over the air conditioner and the front half on the ironing board, and John K. Triple S on the other line on the phone telling me, now try this, now try that, you know, lots of fun. So.
And the hotel lights would dim as you increased the power.
Yeah, I've actually blown circuit breakers and stuff with them, so I'm serious. So.
That's great then, isn't it? Well, I thank you very much for your time, and I certainly encourage everybody to look at your channel here and plow through, and I'll put the link to your image file in my description, as well as your channel. And yeah, I think if there's anybody's got any questions, are they free to contact you on your channel and send you messages that way? Yeah,
absolutely. They could also email me if they would like to. My email address, if anybody wanted it, is almost the same as my YouTube channel. You can use Mr. Mr. _Fox FOX _Rocks ROX at MSN.com.
Okay, I'll put that in the description as well, then, Mr. Fox. Yeah,
that would be fine. And thank you for the time today. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate your knowledge, and like you say, you had a mentor, and I think you'll be a great mentor to a lot of people out there. You know, because most people are scared, and everybody's going towards these, as you say, the BJ computers, and it's a shame. I think we want to try and keep them to the PJ ones.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's like you'll have whatever you tolerate. You know, and I understand the reasons behind it, and the idea has some merit, but anybody that's looking for a really high performance laptop, you're not going to get it with that. Forget it.
No, not at all. I've actually one quick question before we go. You mentioned about delidding.
Yeah.
Do you have something on your channel about the delidding?
Yes, I've got it. I've got it's the video that's for the Tornado F5 teardown video. I actually demonstrate the delidding of a 7700K using the Rocket 88 delid tool.
Okay.
Before that, I had delidded several, I think four or five CPUs using a razor blade. That's risky. I mean, all of it always turned out good, but there's always a chance you could gouge the PCB and ruin the CPU, something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can check that out. It's very safe if you use the right tool.
Okay, yeah, I'll give that a go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, and you enjoy your weekend.
God bless. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.